The moment I found my mom's final letter hidden inside her old jewelry box, my hands shook so badly I could barely read the words. But when I did, my blood turned to ice. If you're reading this, sweetheart, it means I'm gone, and your stepfather did something to me. I couldn't breathe. My mom had been dead for 6 months, and my stepfather, Greg, had spent every second since then pretending she never existed. He threw out her photos, donated her clothes, even painted over her favorite color on the walls. He wanted to erase her. But this letter? This was proof he had a reason. And I was about to make sure the whole world knew. It all started the day my mom died. Cancer. That's what the doctors said. That's what Greg told everyone at the funeral, his voice cracking like he was the one who lost everything. But I knew something was wrong. My mom had been sick, yes, but not like that. Not the kind of sick that kills you in 3 weeks. Greg didn't let me see her in the hospital those last few days. He said it was too hard for me. But when I finally got to say goodbye, she looked different. Not just pale. Afraid. Her fingers clutched mine, and she whispered something so soft I almost missed it. The blue box under the floor. Then she was gone. Greg moved fast. By the time we got home from the funeral, he was already stuffing her things into trash bags. I screamed at him to stop, but he just gave me that cold, empty stare and said, "She's not coming back, Jake. Move on." But I couldn't, because my mom never would have wanted this. She loved her things, her books, her records, the stupid ceramic frog collection she swore was worth money. Greg knew that. So, why was he acting like she never mattered? That's when I remembered her last words. The blue box, under the floor. Our house was old, with wooden floors that creaked. My mom's room had a loose board near the closet. I'd found it once when I was little, hiding candy wrappers so she wouldn't know I'd been sneaking sweets. That night, when Greg was asleep, I crept into her room. The floorboard lifted easily. And there it was. A small blue box. Inside was a single envelope with my name on it. My heart pounded as I unfolded the letter. And with every word, my stomach twisted tighter. Jake, if you're reading this, Greg did something to me. I didn't get sick by accident. He's been putting something in my tea. I found the bottle in his drawer. It's called ethylene glycol. I looked it up. It's poison. I confronted him, and he laughed. Said no one would believe me. That I was too weak to fight back. But you're not. You're strong, baby. And I need you to prove it. I nearly threw up. Greg didn't just want to forget her. He killed her. And as I stood there, clutching that letter in the dark, one thought burned in my mind. I'm going to destroy him. But I had to be smart. Greg wasn't just cruel, he was careful. If I messed this up, I'd end up just like my mom. So I took a deep breath. And I started planning. The next morning, Greg acted like nothing happened. He made pancakes, whistling like he didn't have a care in the world. I forced myself to eat, to smile, to pretend I didn't know the truth. But then he dropped his fork and looked at me with a smirk. You look just like her when you're thinking too hard. My blood ran cold. Was that a threat? Or was he just playing with me? I didn't know. But I was about to find out. Because that night, I heard him on the phone. And what he said changed everything. I was supposed to be asleep. But after reading my mom's letter, sleep was impossible. So I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house creak, until I heard Greg's voice. He was downstairs, talking low, like he didn't want anyone to hear. I crept to my door, cracked it open just enough to listen. No, she didn't leave anything behind. I made sure of it. A pause. Then a dark chuckle. Relax. The kid doesn't know a thing. My fingers dug into the doorframe. Kid. That's all I was to him. A problem to manage. Another pause. Yeah, the life insurance cleared. Finally. My stomach dropped. Life insurance. Of course. That's why he did it. Money. I should have known. Greg had always cared more about his expensive watches and fancy cars than he ever did about my mom. I strained to hear more, but his voice dropped to a whisper. Then footsteps. He was coming upstairs. I shut my door silently, dove back into bed, and pulled the covers up just as his shadow passed by my room. My heart hammered so loud, I was sure he could hear it. But he didn't stop. He kept walking straight to my mom's old room. I waited, listened. Then came the sound I'd been dreading, the creak of the loose floorboard. He was looking for the box. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he wouldn't notice it was gone. A long silence. Then a crash. Greg had thrown something. He knew. I held my breath, waiting for him to storm into my room, to demand answers. But he didn't. Instead, I heard his phone dial.
Hey.
We've got a problem. The next morning, Greg acted normal again. Too normal. He made coffee, humming like nothing was wrong. I sat at the table, forcing myself to eat cereal even though my stomach was in knots. Then he dropped the act. You sleep okay, Jake? His voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Watching me, testing me. I shrugged. Yeah. Why? He took a slow sip of coffee. No reason. A long silence. Then, you ever go through your mom's things? The question was a trap. I knew it.
So, I lied. No.
You threw everything out, remember? Greg's jaw tightened. Right. He set his mug down a little too hard. Well, if you find anything sentimental, let me know. I'd hate for you to get hurt holding on to the past. The threat was clear. I just nodded. But inside, I was screaming. Because Greg had no idea what was coming. And I was about to play my first move. That afternoon, I went to the library. I needed proof. Real proof. Something that couldn't be ignored. My mom's letter mentioned ethylene glycol, the poison Greg used. I looked it up. Antifreeze. Tasteless. Odorless.
Deadly.
And then I found something worse. A news article from 2 years ago. Local man suspected in wife's poisoning death. Case dropped due to lack of evidence. There was no picture, but the name matched. Gregory Hartman. My hands shook. This wasn't his first time. He'd done it before. And gotten away with it. I printed the article, folded it tight, and hid it in my shoe. Greg thought he was smart, but I was smarter. And I wasn't just fighting for my mom anymore. I was fighting for the woman before her. The one nobody saved. That night, I waited until Greg was asleep. Then I crept to his office. I'd never been allowed in here before. The door was always locked. But tonight it wasn't. Almost like he wanted me to find something. I hesitated. Was this a trap? I had to risk it. I stepped inside. The room smelled like cigars and leather. I scanned the desk, the shelves, the filing cabinet. Then I saw it. A small, locked safe under the desk. My mom's letter said she'd found the poison in his drawer. Was it in there now? I needed to open it, but I didn't know the combination. I crouched down, examining the safe. Then I noticed something. Fingerprints. Fresh ones. On the numbers March 17th, 09. A date. But whose? I thought hard. Then it hit me. Not a date. A birthday.
Mine.
March 17th, 2009. My hands trembled as I spun the dial. 3:17:09. A click. The safe opened. And inside, a small glass bottle, half full of clear liquid. No label, but I didn't need one. I knew exactly what it was. I reached for it, then froze, because behind it was something else. A life insurance policy, with my name on it, and Greg as the beneficiary. The floor tilted under me. This wasn't just about my mom. I was next and I grabbed the bottle and the policy, shoved them into my hoodie pocket, and bolted for the door. Just as the hallway light flicked on, Greg stood there, blocking my way. Looking for something, Jake?
His voice was calm.
But his eyes were deadly. I was trapped. And he knew it. My heart stopped. Greg filled the doorway, arms crossed, his shadow stretching toward me like something alive. His expression wasn't angry. It was amused, like he'd been waiting for this. I forced myself to breathe. Play dumb. I was just looking for a pencil, I stammered, backing up. Greg stepped inside, shutting the door behind him with a soft click. In my locked office?
He smirked.
Try again. I swallowed hard. The bottle of poison and the insurance policy burned in my pocket. If he checked, if he knew. Greg tilted his head, studying me. You've been acting weird all week. I miss Mom, I said quickly. A flicker of irritation crossed his face.
We've been over this. She's gone.
Move on. You moved on pretty fast, I muttered before I could stop myself. Greg's smile vanished. For a second, I thought he'd hit me. He'd never done it before, but the way his fists clenched, then he relaxed.
Laughed.
You're right. I did. He walked to his desk, sat on the edge, watching me like a cat with a mouse. Because that's what smart people do, Jake. They don't waste time on lost causes. I clenched my teeth. My mom wasn't a lost cause. She was murdered. Greg leaned forward.
So,
what did you take? I shot through my veins. Nothing. Really? He held out his hand. Empty your pockets. I hesitated. Greg's voice hardened.
now.
My mind raced. If I showed him the poison, he'd know I was onto him. If I refused, he'd search me anyway. There was only one way out. Distract him. I lunged for the window. Greg moved faster. He grabbed my hoodie, yanking me back so hard I stumbled. The bottle and papers tumbled from my pocket, skidding across the floor. Greg's eyes locked onto them.
Then, he laughed.
Oh, Jake. He picked up the bottle, shaking it like it was a joke. You think this is what killed her? I stared. Isn't it? Greg sighed, like I was a kid who'd failed a simple test. Even if it was, who'd believe you? A grieving kid making up stories? He tossed the bottle onto the desk. And that. He nudged the insurance policy with his shoe. That's just being smart. Parents insure their kids all the time.
A lie.
A smooth, practiced lie. But I had one card left. What about your first wife? Greg froze. I pushed harder. The one who also died of poisoning? The case that got dropped. For the first time, Greg looked uneasy. Where did you hear that? I didn't answer. Greg's face darkened. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Listen to me very carefully, Jake. You do not want to mess with me. I held my ground. Or what? You'll poison me too. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Then,
the doorbell rang.
We both froze. Greg recovered first. We're not done here. He shoved the bottle and papers into his desk drawer, locked it, and pointed at me.
Stay.
Put. Then he left, shutting the door behind him. I didn't breathe until his footsteps faded. Who was here? And more importantly, how long did I have before he came back? I rushed to the window. Too high to jump. The desk drawer was locked. The poison gone. But I still had one thing. The insurance policy. I dropped it, but it wasn't on the floor anymore. Greg had taken it.
But not all of it.
A single torn corner lay near the leg of the desk. I snatched it up. It was just a scrap. But on it, a name. Hartman and Price Law Firm. Greg's lawyer. The one who helped him get away with murder.
Twice.
The doorbell rang again. Then voices.
Greg.
And someone else. A woman. I pressed my ear to the door. Called us about a disturbance? A cop. Greg played it smooth. No, officer, everything's fine. Just my stepson acting out since his mom passed. My blood boiled. He was lying. The cop hesitated. Mind if we talk to him?
No.
If Greg got me alone with him now. Of course, Greg said too quickly. Jake, come here, son.
Son.
like I was his, like he hadn't just threatened me. I had two choices: run and look guilty, or play along and hope the cops saw through Greg's act. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The cops were polite, asked if I was okay, if I felt safe. Greg stood behind them, smiling like the perfect grieving stepdad. I wanted to scream the truth, but without proof, they'd never believe me.
So I lied.
I'm fine. Greg's smile widened. The cops left, and the second the door closed, Greg grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. You're lucky they showed up, he hissed. But this isn't over. I yanked free.
Yeah.
It's not. Because I had a new plan. If Greg's lawyer helped him cover up 2 murders, then I'd make sure he went down too. Starting tomorrow, I was going to Hartman and Price, and I wasn't leaving until I had enough to destroy them both. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house felt like Greg coming to finish what he started. But he didn't, because he thought he'd won. Big mistake. At dawn, I dressed quietly, shoved the scrap of paper with the lawyer's name into my shoe, and crept downstairs. Greg was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee, reading the paper. Like a normal person. Like a father. He didn't even look up as I grabbed my backpack. School already? I nodded. Greg turned a page. Don't be late. As if last night never happened. I walked out, fists clenched. But I wasn't going to school. I was going to war. Hartman and Price was downtown, in a fancy glass building that screamed money. I stood outside, staring up at it. How many people had Greg's lawyer helped get away with murder? And how was I, a kid with no proof, supposed to take him down? I didn't know, but I was about to find out. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The receptionist barely glanced up. Can I help you? I need to see Mr. Hartman. She frowned. Do you have an appointment?
No.
But tell him it's about Greg. A pause. Then she picked up the phone, spoke quietly. A minute later, a tall man in a suit appeared. I'm Hartman. What's this about? I looked him dead in the eye. I know what you did. His expression didn't change, but his fingers twitched. Just once. Then he smiled. Why don't you come into my office? It wasn't a request. And as I followed him down the hall, one thought echoed in my mind. This was either the smartest thing I'd ever done, or the last. Hartman's office was too clean, like no real work ever happened there. Just a shiny desk, leather chairs, and a framed diploma from some fancy law school. He shut the door behind us. Have a seat, Jake. He knew my name. Of course he did. I stayed standing. How much did Greg pay you to cover up my mom's murder? Hartman didn't flinch, just sat behind his desk, steepling his fingers. That's a serious accusation. And poisoning 2 wives is a serious crime. I shot back. A flicker in his eyes. Got him. He leaned forward. Greg told me you were troubled after your mother's death. I'm not the one who killed her. Hartman sighed, like I was wasting his time. What do you want, Jake? The truth. The truth. He smirked. The truth is, without evidence, you've got nothing. And even if you did, he tapped a file on his desk. Greg's a respected man. Who's going to believe a kid with a history of, let's call it emotional instability? My stomach twisted. They'd already planned for this. They'd branded me. I forced my voice steady. I have evidence. Hartman raised an eyebrow. Do you? I didn't. Not yet. But I bluffed anyway. Enough to put you both away.
For a second, he studied me.
Then,
he laughed.
You're good. I'll give you that. He stood, walking to a cabinet. But here's the thing, Jake. People like you and me, we understand how the world works. He pulled out a bottle of expensive-looking whiskey and 2 glasses. Greg's not a bad guy, just practical. He poured a drink, slid it toward me. You're smart. I can tell. So, let's be smart about this. I didn't touch the glass. What are you offering? A deal. He sipped his whiskey. You walk away, stop digging into things you don't understand, and Greg will set you up nicely. College fund, apartment, whatever you want. And my mom? Gone. He shrugged. Nothing changes that. My hands clenched. Or, Hartman's smile faded. Or you keep pushing, and we bury you so deep, no one will ever find you. The threat hung in the air. I stood up. I'll take my chances. Hartman sighed, like I'd disappointed him. Pity. Then he pressed a button under his desk. The office door opened. 2 men in suits stepped in. Not cops.
Security.
Hartman nodded at them. Escort him out. One of the men grabbed my arm. I yanked free. I'm going. But as I turned, Hartman called after me. One last thing, Jake. I stopped. He picked up a photo from his desk, a picture of me, walking into the building. If you go to the police, if you breathe a word of this. He dropped the photo into a shredder. We'll know. The machine whirred. And just like that, I was erased. Outside, I barely made it to the alley before I threw up. They'd thought of everything. No evidence. No witnesses. Just a grieving kid with a crazy story. I wiped my mouth, hands shaking. Then I noticed something. A black car idling across the street. Same one that had been near my house last night. Watching me. I ducked behind a dumpster, heart pounding. The car didn't move, but the window rolled down, and a phone camera pointed right at me. They were documenting my every move. I had to disappear.
Now.
I took the long way home, doubling back, cutting through stores, losing myself in crowds. By the time I got back, it was dark. Greg's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I slipped inside, locked the door, and... Find what you were looking for?
I spun.
Greg sat in the living room, shadows hiding half his face. How long had he been waiting? I forced myself to breathe. Just went for a walk. Liar. He stood, stepping into the light. His knuckles were bruised, like he'd been punching something. Or someone. Hartman called, he said softly. You really don't listen, do you? I backed toward the door. Greg moved faster, blocking my way. I tried to be nice, Jake. I really did. He pulled something from his pocket. A syringe. But you just had to keep digging. I lunged for the kitchen. Greg grabbed me, slamming me against the wall. The needle glinted in the dim light. Don't worry, he whispered. It'll look like an overdose. Tragic, really. A kid so broken by his mother's death. A voice cut through the dark. Gregory Hartman. FBI. Freeze. Greg whirled. The front door burst open. Agents in bulletproof vests swarmed in, guns drawn. Greg dropped the syringe, raising his hands. What the hell is this? An agent stepped forward. We've been investigating you for months. Thanks to Jake's testimony and the recording he just gave us, you're done. Recording? Then I remembered. My phone. In my pocket. Still running. The entire conversation with Hartman. Every threat. Every admission. Greg's face twisted in rage. You little. He lunged at me. The agents tackled him. As they dragged him out, screaming, one agent crouched beside me. You okay, kid? I looked at the syringe on the floor. Then at the FBI agents securing the house. And for the first time in months, I smiled.
Yeah.
I'm good. Greg screamed all the way to the squad car. You think this is over? You're dead, Jake. Dead. The FBI agent next to me, Agent Reyes, put a hand on my shoulder. Ignore him. He's not going anywhere but prison. But as I watched Greg get shoved into the back seat, his eyes locked onto mine through the glass, and he smiled, like he knew something I didn't. The next 48 hours were a blur. Police. Questions. A hospital checkup, just to be safe. Turns out the FBI had been watching Greg. His first wife's case was never really closed, just buried. My mom's death got them digging again. But they needed proof. and I'd handed it to them on a silver platter. Agent Reyes drove me home the next night. The house felt different now. Empty, but not in a sad way. Like a storm had passed. "We'll need you to testify," Reyes said as we walked inside. "But with Hartman's recorded threats and the syringe Greg tried to use, this case is airtight." I nodded, exhausted. Then I froze. Something was off. The living room. It looked the same, but the photo frames were crooked, like someone had moved them. Reyes noticed my tension. "What's wrong?" "Someone was here." We searched the house. Nothing missing. No signs of breaking in. But in Greg's office, the locked drawer was open, and the poison bottle was gone. Reyes radioed it in immediately. "Hartman's still in custody," the dispatcher confirmed. "Greg, too. No bail." "Then, who took it?" Reyes turned to me, dead serious. "Is there anyone else Greg works with?" "Anyone who'd?" A clink from the kitchen. We both spun. Reyes drew his gun. "FBI. Show yourself." Silence. Then, a laugh. Familiar.
Cold.
"Come on, Jake. You didn't really think it was just Greg and Hartman, did you?" A figure stepped into the hallway, and my blood turned to ice. Detective Carson. The cop who'd responded to our house the night Greg cornered me. The one who'd believed Greg's act. Carson smirked, holding up the poison bottle. "Missed this little detail in the search. Can't have evidence lying around, can we?" Reyes aimed his gun. "Drop it."
Now.
Carson sighed. "See, this is why I hate feds. No vision." Then he hurled the bottle at Reyes' face. Glass shattered. Reyes dodged, but not fast enough. A single drop splashed onto his arm. He gasped. His skin bubbled. Ethylene glycol. Concentrated. Carson bolted for the back door. I grabbed Reyes' radio. "Agent down. Need help now." Reyes was seizing, foam at his mouth. Carson's voice echoed from outside. "Game's not over, kid. Hartman's got friends in every department." Sirens wailed in the distance. Too far. Reyes wasn't breathing. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the baking soda, and poured it onto the burning flesh. Neutralized the acid. Reyes jolted, screaming. But he was alive. The front door burst open. More agents. Medics. Chaos. As they loaded Reyes into an ambulance, one agent pulled me aside. "Jake, Carson's dirty, which means we don't know who else is involved." He handed me a burner phone. "Pack a bag. You're going into protective custody." 2 hours later, I was in a safe house across town. No lights. No phone calls. Just me, an FBI guard outside, and one terrifying thought. Hartman's reach went deeper than anyone knew. And now, they'd all be coming for me. The safe house was a small, stuffy apartment above a laundromat. The FBI agent stationed outside, Agent Cole, had barely spoken 2 words to me since we arrived. Every few minutes he checked his phone, his jaw tightening. I sat on the lumpy couch, staring at the burner phone in my hands. One contact, Reyes, FBI. But Reyes was in the hospital, unconscious. And the only other person who knew where I was? Detective Carson. The thought made me nauseous. A knock at the door. I jerked upright. Agent Cole peered through the peephole, then relaxed. "Clear." The door opened, and a woman in a lab coat stepped in, carrying a medical bag. "Jake Hartman? I'm Dr. Lee. Just here to check your vitals after the incident." Her smile was warm, but her eyes darted around the room like she was memorizing it. Something was off. "I feel fine," I said slowly. Agent Cole nodded. "Protocol. Let her work." Dr. Lee set her bag on the coffee table. "Any dizziness? Nausea?"
No.
She pulled out a blood pressure cuff. "Roll up your sleeve, please." As I did, I noticed something. Her stethoscope had no earpieces. Just wires. Not a doctor. I yanked my arm back. "Who sent you?" Dr. Lee's smile vanished. Agent Cole reached for his gun. Too late. She slashed at his throat with a scalpel. Cole gagged, blood pouring between his fingers as he collapsed. I bolted for the bedroom, slammed the door, and shoved the dresser in front of it. Thud. The door shook. "Jake," she crooned. "Hartman just wants to talk." I scrambled for the window. Third floor. No fire escape. The dresser splintered as she kicked the door. I grabbed the lamp, yanked the cord from the wall, and swung it like a bat just as she burst through. Crack. The base shattered against her temple. She went down hard. I didn't wait to see if she got up. I jumped. Pain exploded in my ankles as I hit the alley dumpster, then the pavement. Gasping, I limped toward the street. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of me. I turned to run. "Get in." The passenger window rolled down. A girl my age glared at me from the driver's seat. Freckles, wild red hair, and a gun in her hand. "Unless you want to die in this alley, move." I hesitated. A gunshot echoed from above. Dr. Lee leaned out the broken window, taking aim. I dove into the SUV. The girl floored it. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded as we swerved through traffic. "Mia," she snapped. "Reyes is my godfather." My stomach dropped. "Is he alive?" "Barely." She gripped the wheel tighter. "Carson's people got to his hospital room an hour ago. Somehow knew he'd woken up." I felt sick. "They're everywhere." Mia's knuckles whitened.
Yeah.
"Which is why we're not going to the cops. Or the FBI." "Then where?" She reached into the back seat and tossed me a file. I opened it. Inside, a photo of a man in his 60s with sharp gray eyes. "Meet real Dr. Lee," Mia said. "Hartman's personal physician. And the man who signed your mom's death certificate." I stared. "You think he knows where the bodies are buried?" "Literally?" Mia smirked. "Oh, he definitely does." She took a sharp turn. "And we're gonna make him talk." Mia drove like a bat out of hell, weaving through downtown traffic with one hand on the wheel and the other dialing a number on her burner phone. "Yeah, it's me," she snapped. "We're compromised. Need the backup plan." She listened for a second, then cursed.
Fine.
"We'll do it the hard way." She hung up and tossed the phone out the window. "Who was that?" I asked. "The only FBI agent left who isn't dirty," she muttered. "And he just went radio silent." That wasn't reassuring. I flipped through Dr. Lee's file. Private practice. Top floor office in a medical building. No wife, no kids, just a lot of late-night meetings with Hartman over the past decade. "How do we even get to him?" Mia grinned.
Easy.
"We give him what he wants." She reached into the back seat again and pulled out a white lab coat, just like the fake doctor had worn. "You're kidding," I said. "Nope. You're the bait." 20 minutes later, I stood outside Dr. Lee's office, sweating under the lab coat. Mia had stuffed my hair under a surgical cap and given me a clipboard with urgent Hartman case scrawled across the top. "Remember," she'd said, "Lee's arrogant. He'll want to gloat. Just keep him talking." Now, taking a shaky breath, I knocked. A voice barked from inside. I said no interruptions. "It's about Gregory Hartman," I said, deepening my voice. "The FBI just raided his." The door flew open. Dr. Lee was older than his photo, with cold, calculating eyes. He took one look at me and went pale. "You." I dropped the clipboard and lunged at him, shoving him back into the office. Mia burst in behind me, gun raised. "Hands where I can see 'em, Doc." Lee stumbled, catching himself on his desk. For a second, he looked terrified. Then his expression twisted into something ugly. "Do you really think this ends well for you?" he sneered. "Hartman owns this city." "Funny," Mia said, kicking the door shut. "Because from where I'm standing, you're the one with a gun in your face." Lee's eyes darted to his desk drawer. I yanked it open. Inside, a syringe. Just like Greg's. "Planning another accident, Doctor?" I hissed. Lee smirked. "You're exactly like your mother." She figured it out too, right before. Mia pistol whipped him across the jaw. Enough. Where are the records? Lee spat blood, laughing. You think I'd keep them here? Hartman's not stupid.
But you are, Mia said.
She grabbed his computer mouse and clicked. The monitor flickered to life, showing an open email with the subject line, Hartman patient files, backup. Lee's face went slack. Oops, Mia said sweetly. Guess you did keep them here. She plugged in a flash drive and started downloading. Lee moved, faster than I expected, grabbing the syringe and stabbing toward Mia's neck. I tackled him. We crashed into a shelf, sending medical supplies flying. Lee scrambled on top of me, syringe raised.
Bang.
The shot was deafening in the small room. Lee gasped, looking down at the red stain blooming on his shirt. Mia stood over us, gun smoking. That was for Reyes. Lee collapsed, wheezing. I shoved him off, shaking. Did you just? He'll live, Mia said, yanking out the flash drive. But we won't if we don't move. Sirens wailed in the distance. Cops. I asked. Worse, Mia said, peering out the window. Hartman's private security. Everywhere. Black SUVs surrounded the building. We were trapped. The elevator dinged. Security was coming up. Mia grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the stairwell. Move. We burst through the door just as armed men flooded the hallway behind us. Boots pounded on metal stairs below. More of them coming up.
Trapped.
Mia didn't hesitate. She kicked open the door to the 12th floor and dragged me into a dimly lit hospital wing. This way. We sprinted past empty patient rooms, the smell of antiseptic burning my nose. Behind us, shouts echoed as security spread out. Mia skidded to a stop in front of a janitor's closet, shoving me inside. She locked the door just as footsteps raced past. Now what? I whispered. She pulled out the flash drive, her hands shaking. This has everything. Hartman's payments. Fake death certificates. Even Greg's first wife's tox report. A shadow moved under the door. We froze. A walkie-talkie crackled outside. Clear the south wing. They're heading for the roof. The footsteps faded. Mia exhaled. We need to get this to the press. Once it's public, Hartman can't bury it.
How?
I said. They've got the whole building locked down. She grinned, pulling a key card from her pocket. Reyes had a backup plan. There's a real FBI agent parked in the ER parking lot. We just gotta reach him. I stared at the key card. Maintenance elevator access. You're insane, I said. Yeah, she said, cracking the door open. But I'm right. The service elevator creaked as it descended, every second stretching into eternity. At any moment, the doors could open to a wall of guns. Mia gripped her pistol. I clutched the flash drive like it was a live grenade.
Ding.
Ground floor. The doors slid open. Empty hallway. We bolted for the exit, bursting through the doors into the blinding afternoon sun. A gray sedan screeched to a halt in front of us. The driver, a wiry man with a buzz cut, leaned over and shoved the passenger door open. Get in. Mia didn't hesitate. I dove in after her just as gunfire pinged off the car's bumper. The agent floored it, swerving out of the parking lot. Reyes. Mia demanded. Alive, the agent said. But Hartman's got people at the hospital. We're on our own. He tossed a burner phone into Mia's lap. Call the number labeled Firewall. It's a reporter. She'll.
Bang.
The rear window shattered. A black SUV was gaining on us, a gunman leaning out the passenger window. Down, the agent yelled. Mia ducked, dialing frantically. I twisted in my seat, just as the SUV rammed us. Metal screamed as we spun out, crashing into a lamppost. The airbag punched me in the face. Blood filled my mouth. Mia groaned next to me, the phone still pressed to her ear. Files on Hartman, she slurred. Sending coordinates. Burn him. The SUV skidded to a stop behind us. Doors opened. Boots hit pavement. The agent grabbed my shoulder.
Run.
Now. Then he drew his gun and stepped out of the car. FBI, drop your.
Gunfire.
So much gunfire. Mia yanked me out the other side as the agent collapsed. We ran. We lost them in the subway tunnels. At least, that's what I hoped. Mia's nose was bleeding and my ribs screamed with every step, but we didn't stop running until we reached the abandoned station at the end of the line. She collapsed against the grimy tiles, gasping. Did the file send? I checked the burner phone. Upload complete. Yeah, I said, breathless. But now what? Hartman's guys are everywhere. Mia wiped blood from her lip, grinning. Doesn't matter. The reporter I sent them to? She's live in 5 minutes. Once this hits the news. A gun cocked behind us. Once what hits the news. We froze. Detective Carson stepped out of the shadows, his police-issue pistol aimed at Mia's head. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with soot, but his eyes were ice cold. You kids just don't quit, do you? Mia slowly raised her hands. Carson, let me guess. Hartman promised you a promotion. Better, Carson said. A pension. After tonight, I retire somewhere sunny. And you too? Well, he shrugged. Subway accidents happen. I inched my hand toward my pocket, where the flash drive actually was. Mia had sent the reporter dummy files. The real evidence was still on me. Carson noticed. He aimed the gun at my face. Hands where I can. Screech. A train roared into the station, not stopping, just flying through. The wind nearly knocked us over. Carson stumbled. Mia moved. She kicked his knee, hard, and he screamed as it bent sideways. His gun clattered to the ground. I dove for it. Carson was faster. He grabbed my ankle and yanked, sending me crashing onto the tracks. The rails vibrated. Another train coming. Mia lunged at Carson, but he backhanded her across the face. She hit the wall, dazed. Carson loomed over me, pulling a second gun from his ankle holster.
Sorry, kid.
Nothing personal. I braced.
Bang.
Carson jerked. A red stain bloomed on his chest. He collapsed. Behind him, Mia stood, gripping his fallen pistol with both hands. Yeah, she panted. Nothing personal. The rails hummed louder. Jake, move. I scrambled off the tracks just as the next train screamed past, drowning out everything. The news broke at 8 p.m. Hartman's face was on every channel. Prominent attorney linked to multiple homicides. FBI arrests pending. Mia and I watched from a safe house as the reporter we'd sent the files to laid it all out. The poison, the bribes, even Greg's first wife. But the real kicker? The reporter held up a piece of paper. My mom's final letter. This was sent to us anonymously, she said. A victim's last words, naming her killer. I hadn't sent it. Mia frowned. Then who? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Check the safe house fridge. I yanked the fridge door open. Taped inside was another envelope. I tore it open.
Jake.
If you're reading this, you won. But Hartman's just one head of the snake. The real power is the people who let him operate. The cops. The judges. So here's your choice. Walk away now or keep fighting. Either way, I'm proud of you.
Mom.
Mia stared. What the hell? Who left this? I didn't answer. Because I knew. The same person who'd shot Carson. The same person who'd sent the letter to the press. Someone my mom trusted. And they were still out there. I folded the note, smiling. Game's not over yet.